I was always pretty content with my life. I mean, sure, of course, I always dreamed that one day I would get a loving family of my own, but in the meantime, I was happy living at the orphanage. So it came as a bit of a surprise to me the day that Mrs. Wilson, the caretaker, called me into her office.
Ruby, we have some good news for you.
I looked at her in surprise. Really? What is it?
We have found a family who want to adopt you.
I can't tell you how happy I felt at that moment. It was the day I'd been waiting for all of my life. Finally, I was going to have the family I had always wanted. Hey, you think that's crazy? Stick around to the end of the video for something actually insane. Mrs. Wilson told me that the couple who wanted to adopt me were coming the next day to meet me.
Make sure that you put on your nicest dress and be on your best behavior, Ruby. You want to be sure to make a good impression on them.
Yes, Mrs. Wilson, of course. The next morning, I woke up super early. I was so excited, I couldn't wait to meet my new family. I got myself ready and went downstairs to wait for them in the lounge. I heard a car pull up, and a few minutes later, the door opened and Mrs. Wilson came in.
Ruby, this is Mr. and Mrs. Thompson.
I looked at them shyly. I had no idea what to say. The lady looked at me kindly.
It's okay, Ruby. Don't be nervous. We're very happy to meet you.
I took an instant liking to her. She seemed so nice and made me relax straight away. Hi.
We would love for you to come and join our family to live with us. Would you like that?
Oh yes, please.
We have 3 daughters who are very much looking forward to meeting you.
Wow, so I'm gonna have 3 sisters?
Yes, you are.
That's amazing. After the first meeting, everything happened so quickly. Mrs. Wilson made all of the arrangements, and before I knew it, I was being driven off in Mr. and Mrs. Thompson's car to go and start my new life with them. As we drove towards their house, my heart was singing with joy. I couldn't believe I'd gotten so lucky. And when we pulled up to the front of their house, my heart leapt even more. The house? Well, not really a house, more of a mansion, was really beautiful. I had no idea they were so rich.
Welcome to your new home, Ruby.
It's amazing. I can't believe I'm going to be living here.
Come on, let's go inside. The girls will be dying to meet you.
I followed Mr. and Mrs. Thompson into the house. When we got inside, a maid came over and took my coat.
The girls are waiting in the lounge, ma'am. Thank you, Daisy. Come on, Ruby, this way.
As soon as Mrs. Thompson opened the lounge, I was bombarded with questions.
What's your name? How old are you? Do you like dogs?
Hold on, girls. Give Ruby time to catch her breath.
I smiled at Mrs. Thompson with relief and sat down on the sofa. As we chatted away, I soon realized that the girls were all really nice and friendly. But I couldn't help feeling sorry for my new sisters. I mean, yeah, they had this wonderful life in their huge house, but they were seriously ugly. You probably think that's a mean thing for me to say, but it was true. One of them had a giant nose like Pinocchio, and one had terrible black teeth, and the other had ears like an actual elephant.
Right, girls, I'm going to make some tea for us all. You get to know each other whilst I'm gone.
The door closed, and I was expecting the girls to carry on chatting away like they'd been doing, but instead they just turned away and ignored me. I tried to strike up a conversation, but they just kept shutting me down.
You don't think we really want to get to know you, do you?
Yeah, we don't need another sister. We have enough already.
I began to feel really sad. I thought they were really nice and happy to have me join their family. But it seems like it had all just been an act in front of their parents. I decided that it was probably best if I kept to myself for a while. Maybe when they got to know me a bit better, then we would be friends. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Instead, things got even worse for me. It started when I went to school. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson dropped the 4 of us off at the school gates.
Now, girls, the 3 of you need to watch out for Ruby. Make sure to introduce her to everyone so that she settles in quickly.
Of course, Mom. You don't need to worry. We will look after her.
But once again, it was just a show for their parents. As soon as they'd driven off, the 3 girls just ran off, leaving me standing all alone. I walked through the schoolyard and into the building on the other side. I had no idea where I was supposed to go. I just kept walking down the corridor. I really felt like bursting into tears. I felt so lonely. But then suddenly, I heard a voice behind me.
Hello? You're new, aren't you?
I turned around and saw a girl about my age standing there. Yes, I don't know where to go.
Come on, I'll show you. My name's Diane. What's yours?
Ruby. I followed Diane along the corridor into the classroom. After that, the morning went quite well. Diane showed me where everything was and even asked me if I wanted to sit with her at lunchtime. Thank you, that would be so great. But when we got to the canteen, I couldn't see Diane, so I got my lunch and went on to sit down on my own. And that's when I heard them. The other kids were all whispering and talking about me.
Look, that's her.
You know what her sister said?
No, what?
The only reason she's so beautiful is because it's compensation for her being so dumb.
They all started laughing. I could feel the tears welling up and I quickly choked them back. How can my sisters be so mean? What have I done to make them be so horrible to me? I sat there eating my lunch and tried to ignore what I'd heard. But then Diane arrived and sat down next to me.
Cheer up. It might never happen.
Sorry, what?
Well, you look so unhappy. What's the matter?
I hesitated for a minute. I didn't know whether or not to tell Diane what I just heard. But then I figured she would probably hear it from someone else anyway. My sisters have been spreading some mean rumors about me. I told Diane what I'd overheard the other kids saying.
Just ignore them. I definitely don't believe what your sisters have said. I don't think that you're dumb.
Really?
Of course. Anyway, they're probably just jealous of your beauty.
I began to feel a bit better then.
Don't worry what other people think. And anyway, you've got me for a friend.
I smiled at Diane. I knew she was right. As long as I had her as a friend, who cared what other people thought? So from then on, I just ignored everything my sisters said about me. Of course, they tried their best to get everyone to hate me, but they couldn't stop Diane from being my friend. She never believed anything that they said. Now, you're probably wondering why I never told Mr. and Mrs. Thompson about what my sisters were doing. I know I probably should have done, but I didn't want them to think that I was being ungrateful to them for adopting me. And as the weeks went by, I just learned to live with it. And anyway, I had something to look forward to. I joined the prom committee and I was busy helping to organize the upcoming prom. We put posters out all around the school, telling everyone to get their best party clothes ready, as it was going to be the fanciest prom the school had ever held. Everyone was so excited, including my sisters. Eventually, the night of the prom came. I spent all day getting my hair and nails done and doing my makeup. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson came into my room.
Ruby, you look absolutely gorgeous. Now have a fabulous night. We are going out for a business dinner now, but make sure you take a photo once you get your dress on. You can show us tomorrow.
I will. Enjoy your dinner. I took one last look in the mirror and went to my wardrobe to get my prom dress. But as soon as I opened the wardrobe, my heart sank. Oh my god, no! My dress had been torn to shreds. Who did this? I heard my bedroom door open, and it was my three sisters.
Oh, Ruby, what a shame. You can't go to the prom. Bye. We'll make sure to tell you all about it.
With that, the three of them walked out, laughing as they went. Oh my god, I am so angry. I want to scream. I'm the one that organized the prom, and now I don't get to go? I laid down on my bed and started crying. Suddenly, I heard a knock at my door.
Ruby? What is it? Why are you crying?
Mrs. Thompson? What are you doing back?
I forgot my purse. What happened?
At first, I wasn't gonna tell her, but in the end, I decided to tell her the truth.
Oh, Ruby, I am so sorry that this happened to you. I had no idea.
It's okay, it's not your fault.
Well, it may not have been my fault, but I am going to be the one to put things right. Wait here.
She left the room and then a few minutes later came back holding a beautiful gold dress.
This is the dress that I wore for my prom. I have kept it for all these years, and now I know the reason why. Here, try it on.
I put the dress on and looked in the mirror. When I saw my reflection, I gasped out loud. It's beautiful. I feel like a princess.
And you look like one too.
Thank you so much.
Come on, get your things. We are taking you to the prom.
As soon as I walked into the prom, everyone stopped what they were doing and just stared at me.
Ruby, you look absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Diane. You do too. As soon as I walked through the room, I suddenly saw my three sisters standing by the food table. When they saw me, their mouths dropped open and they gave me the evilest of looks.
What are you doing here?
Where did you get that dress from?
But before I had time to answer, they picked up some food from the table and hurled it towards me. Luckily, I saw it coming just in time and managed to dodge out of the way.
Hey, stop that right now.
My sisters looked behind me in horror. They hadn't noticed that Mrs. Thompson had been standing behind me all the time.
What do you three think you are doing? I can't believe you have been so mean to Ruby.
They looked at Mrs. Thompson sheepily.
Sorry, Mom. We were just joking.
I looked at Mrs. Thompson. Thank you for dropping me off. I'll be fine. You can go for your dinner now. I didn't speak to my sisters anymore after that. I spent the whole evening dancing with Diane and having the best time in the world. I wasn't going to let my sisters spoil my prom. At the end of the evening, I tried to find my sisters, but it looked like they'd gone home without me.
Don't worry, Ruby. My dad will drop you home.
Thank you, Diane. As soon as I walked into my house, I could hear the voices coming from the lounge.
I am so ashamed of you three. I thought that I brought you up to be nice people. Well, you are going to pay for what you have done. The three of you are grounded for the rest of this term. You won't be getting any new clothes or any money or anything. Do you understand me?
I opened the door and walked into the lounge. I could see by the looks in my sisters' faces that they thought I was there to gloat, but I wasn't. Please don't punish my sisters. They weren't being mean on purpose. It was just teasing, wasn't it? I looked at my sisters and they nodded. We're all good friends, really, aren't we? They all began to nod again.
We're really sorry, Ruby. We shouldn't have been mean to you.
Yeah, it was bad of us. Can we start over and become friends?
Do you think you could forgive us?
I would love for us all to be friends, and of course I can forgive you. In the end, we became the closest of sisters. Pretty crazy, right?
Life was pretty tough for me growing up. You see, I didn't live a normal life like you probably did. I lived alone on a deserted island. I'm not really sure how I came to be there. It wasn't something I really thought about. I didn't have to sit and wonder about my life, because I had to spend every waking minute looking for my next meal. I couldn't go to a supermarket or get takeaway. I had to hunt and fish and eat whatever I could find. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, or you might end up living on your own desert island. The first thing I did when I woke up every morning was go down to the ocean and try to spear a fish. It wasn't easy. The fish were really fast, but I persevered, and sometimes I got lucky. I lived off wild berries and plants that grew on the island. Sometimes I would come across a bird egg in a nest, and I would cook it over a fire made from twigs. I had made a shelter to sleep in, but it wasn't very comfortable, and when it rained, the water would come running through the ceiling and soak me in my bed. Sometimes when I was lying there, I would imagine that one day someone would come and rescue me. But of course, that never happened. I tried not to think too much about the future because if I did, it would make me depressed. Instead, I just concentrated on my daily tasks. One of my biggest concerns was finding fresh water to drink. One time I ran out of water and was so thirsty that I drank some water from the ocean. Oh, was that a big mistake. I was so ill, I just lay in my shelter for about 3 days. I honestly thought I was going to die, but I didn't. I knew that I had to find a way to catch the rainwater, so I collected coconut shells and laid them out on the floor. When it rained, they filled up with water, which was safe for me to drink. Sometimes I would see a boat sailing by in the distance. The first few times it happened, I would run down to the shore and wave my arms in the air, frantically trying to get their attention. But they never saw me, so eventually I gave up even trying. I would just sit and watch until the boat disappeared over the horizon. Life on the island was pretty boring. It was the same thing day in and day out. Get up, make a fire, go find something to eat. Come home, cook, eat, and sleep. I thought nothing exciting would ever happen to me, but I was wrong. One day, everything changed. The day started off just like any other day. I woke up as soon as the sun's rays came piercing through the gaps in my shelter ceiling and began to make the fire. Once the wood was alight, I picked up my spear and walked down to the ocean. The water was crystal clear, and as I waded out to the deeper water, I could see hundreds of fish darting this way and that. I lifted my spear into the air and waited for the perfect moment to strike. But suddenly, I heard a strange noise coming from under the water. I was about to dive under to investigate when I felt something wrap itself around my legs. The next thing I knew, I was being dragged under the water. Ah! I didn't realize at the time, but I later found out that I had been caught in a fishing net. As I struggled under the water trying to break free, I suddenly felt myself being pulled up to the surface. I gasped for breath and was shocked to see a woman standing in front of me. What? Who? Where did you come from?
I was sailing past and I saw you. Lucky for you, I'm here to rescue you.
I can't believe it. I've dreamt of this moment for so long, but I thought it would never happen.
Well, it has happened. I'm gonna take you home and you can live with me.
It was all so surreal. One minute I was all alone on my island, and the next I was sailing away on her boat to a new life. When the boat docked, I looked around. Everything was so different to my island. For one thing, it was so noisy. Everywhere was the sound of traffic and people. It hurt my ears. Why is it so loud?
What? It's not loud. It's always like this. Don't worry, you'll soon get used to it.
Everything felt really strange to me. I had never been in a car before, so the first time she started the engine, I nearly jumped out of my skin. What's that?
It's my car. It's how we get around in the city.
As we drove through the streets, I gazed out of the car window, taking in all the sights. I couldn't believe how many people were around. They were rushing here and there like tiny ants running through the jungle. When we arrived at her house, she showed me to my room.
You can sleep here. The bathroom is across the hallway and my room is at the opposite end.
Thank you, it's amazing.
Take a shower and then come downstairs. I'll have your dinner ready for you.
As soon as she closed the bedroom door, I threw myself on the bed and gazed up at the ceiling. It was the first time in my life that I had had a proper roof over my head. Is this actually really happening? I pinched myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Nope, it's not a dream. When I came downstairs, I could see the woman was in the kitchen.
Come on, your dinner's waiting.
Thank you, ma'am.
You can call me Mom.
It felt a bit strange to me to call her that, but after everything she had done for me, it was the least that I could do. Okay, Mom, thank you. She put the plate down in front of me. When I saw what was on it, I was shocked. It was a plate full of worms.
Come on now, eat up.
I picked up the fork and began to eat the worms. To be honest, I was just grateful to have someone provide me with a meal instead of me having to go and hunt for something. I didn't question whether or not it was a normal meal.
Tomorrow you start school. I've called the principal at our local school and he offered you a place there.
Wow, thank you, that's amazing. The next morning, I woke up bright and early. I was so excited to be going to school. When I arrived at the school gates, the principal was waiting to meet me.
You must be Tom. Welcome to our school.
Thank you, sir. Standing beside the principal was a boy about my age.
This is Adam. He is going to show you around.
Hi, Adam.
Hi, Tom. Come with me.
Adam was really nice to me. I'd never had a friend before, so it felt really good to have someone to laugh and joke with.
So, you really lived on an island all by yourself?
Yes, I did.
Wow, that's so cool. I wish I could live on a desert island.
It can get pretty boring being on your own, though.
Yeah, but I bet it was so much fun.
I guess so.
That's the bell for class. Meet me at the canteen and we will have lunch together.
Okay. The morning flew by, and before I knew it, it was time for lunch. My mom had packed me a lunchbox, so I took it out of my bag and went to meet Adam.
Here, Tom, over here.
I went to join Adam at his table. There were already a few other kids sitting there. They were all munching away on sandwiches and pieces of fruit. I was excited to see what my mom had put in my lunchbox for me, but when I opened the box, all that was inside was worms. When the other kids saw what was in my box, they all stopped and stared. One of the girls let out an almighty scream.
Why have you got worms for your lunch?
I was confused and didn't know what to say. Luckily, Adam saw my face and jumped in.
It's just a prank. Of course he doesn't eat worms.
I gave Adam a grateful look and whispered, "Thank you."
Humans don't eat worms, you know?
I was so confused. If people didn't eat worms, why had my mom given them to me? She must have known that everyone would freak out when they saw them. Why would she do that to me? As soon as I got home from school, I went and confronted my mom. Why did you give me worms for my lunch? People here don't eat worms. As soon as I had finished speaking, a strange look came over her face and she started acting really deranged.
You're a fish. I caught you in a net, so you must be a fish, and fish eat worms.
But I'm not a fish, I'm a boy.
Of course you're a fish. You were in the water and I caught you in my net.
As I sat there listening to her ranting, I realized that she was obviously crazy. I knew that I had no choice. I had to get away from her. I just remembered I have to, I stood up and ran to the front door.
Where are you going? Come back, my little fish.
That was the final straw. I ran out of the house as fast as I could. I had to get away from her. I ran towards the port, her chasing after me, but I was younger and faster than her. I managed to get onto her boat and start the engine before she reached the port. As I sailed out of the port, I could see her jumping onto another boat, and before long, she was following me. Oh my God, she's crazy. I was really scared. I didn't know what she was capable of doing. I pushed the boat to its limit, but it was no use. Her boat was bigger and faster, and within a few minutes, she had caught up to me. She pulled alongside me and started trying to throw a fishing net over my head. What are you doing? You're a psycho!
Come here, my little fish. I'm gonna take you home.
I dodged this way and that, trying to avoid being caught by her net. I told you, I'm not a fish.
Yes, you are. Don't deny it.
Somehow, by weaving my boat from side to side, I managed to avoid being trapped in her net. Eventually, I saw my island in the distance. If I can just make it to the island, I'll be able to escape from her. No one knows their way around the island as much as I do. I will be able to hide from her. As soon as my boat reached the shore, I jumped out and ran into the jungle. I could hear her footsteps right behind me. How is she keeping up with me? I emerged from the jungle and ran to the edge of the cliff. Now what am I going to do? I turned to face her, my heart beating 10 to the dozen. That's when I saw it. In her hand, she was holding a butcher's knife. I was terrified. What is she going to do?
Now that I've caught my fish, it's time to make sushi.
The next thing, she lunged at me. I quickly dodged to the left to avoid her knife. I watched as she went sailing over the edge of the cliff. I could hear her scream getting fainter and fainter until it finally disappeared altogether. I looked over the edge of the cliff, but all I could see was the ocean below. Phew, what a relief. She's gone. I made my way back to the shore and jumped back onto the boat. As soon as I got back to civilization, I went straight to Adam's house. He looked a bit surprised to see me standing in front of his door.
Hi, Tom. What are you doing here?
Can I come in, please?
Sure. What's happened? You look as white as a sheet.
It's a long story. Adam's mom made me a cup of tea and I explained everything that had happened to me.
Oh my God, what kind of person feeds a boy worms?
I thought everyone ate worms until Adam told me differently.
Why no, we most certainly do not eat worms.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't go back and live on the island by myself. Not now that I've had a taste of living a normal life.
Of course not, don't you worry about anything. You can stay here with us for as long as you want to.
Really?
Yes, really.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you.
Now, Adam, why don't you go and show Tom where the spare bedroom is? You should get some sleep now. You have school in the morning.
I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. And even though I was so happy to be there and I was so grateful to Adam's parents, I couldn't help feeling scared that my mom might appear from nowhere, brandishing her butcher's knife in her hand. Hold on to my hand. Quick, if we don't get out of here, you'll be swept away.
I'm trying!
I held on to Jeff and pulled him out of the sewer onto the rainy street. The raindrops slapped our faces, washing all the muddy water away. We had no idea that today, of all days, torrential rains would come and flood us out of our home. I almost lost one of my only friends, and this was a scare I never wanted to have again in my entire life. This is just a flashback of my most awful moment in the sewer. My life wasn't always spent in smelly sewer tunnels. It was almost perfect. Make sure you keep watching to see how my perfect life turned into a life in an underground sewer tunnel, and how I eventually became rich and helped everyone around me. When life was normal, I lived in a pretty modern house in Las Vegas with my twin brother Cameron and my parents. They were both well-known psychologists and had hundreds of clients, including some well-known celebrities, so we were pretty well off. Cameron and I didn't have to share a room because our house was huge. Although we were identical, we had totally different personalities. I was the shy, quiet, introverted one, and he was loud, popular, and a bit nuts. At school, everyone knew him, and he was always invited to the cool kids' parties. This made life a bit hard for me because people kept mistaking me for him. I didn't really want to be bothered, if you know what I mean. Popularity wasn't a goal for me. One day, I was walking through the hallway, and a beautiful blonde girl walked up to me. She stared for a while, then slapped hard on my face.
You jerk. Yeah, how could you cheat on Miranda? You are such a dog.
What? I'm not Cameron. I'm his twin brother, Bradley.
What kind of excuse is that? He never mentioned having a twin brother.
I rolled my eyes and walked away. I'd had enough. That night, I dyed my hair red and asked my parents for money to go shopping. I went to the mall and bought a bunch of nerdy clothes. You know, kind of like Carlton from The Fresh Prince. The next day, when I got ready for school, Cameron fell to his knees and rolled on the floor laughing.
Bro, what are you wearing? What happened to your hair? Mom, Dad, come look at this.
I'm tired of being mistaken for you. One of your girlfriends slapped me yesterday because you apparently cheated on her. Could you maybe try to be faithful for like once in your life?
I never wanted anything serious with Miranda anyway. I told her that from the beginning. I'm more into Tracy and Tiffany.
So as you can tell, I'm the nice one and Cameron is sort of a jerk. My life definitely began to improve at school because I could be my own person now. I was doing extremely well in all my classes, and at that rate, I knew I would get into a great college. Everything was perfect. Then I got home one afternoon and heard my parents talking.
We can't use our children as experiments.
Are you forgetting that's why we had them?
Yeah, but I've sort of grown to like them.
This is our contribution to science. Come on, we'll become even more famous.
Ugh, fine. You're right. So which one are we sending away?
Bradley.
What? But he's the nice one.
What are you guys talking about? Where are you sending me? What's going on? I don't want to go anywhere.
We're conducting an experiment. We want to see how much an environment can affect a person's personality. A nature versus nurture sort of thing. You won't understand, but I don't think you've covered that stuff in your science classes yet.
No, but I read a lot and I know what you're talking about. So why are you sending only one of us away?
We want to keep one of you in this comfortable home environment. Cameron is already a lovely boy, so we will continue to observe him here.
Are we talking about the same Cameron here? Because he's sort of a jerk. So if you're keeping him here, then where are you sending me?
The sewer.
My mom said with a big smile on her face. You have got to be kidding me. We're just going to see it or something, right?
No, you're going to live there for a year and then we're going to see if your personality changes after.
That has got to be illegal. You can't just abandon me and force me to live in a sewer. You're both psychos. I'm calling the police.
We already applied for permission. Because this is a scientific experiment, it's perfectly fine. So the police won't do anything, honey.
At that moment, Cameron walked in.
What's going on?
Cameron asked. They're sending me to live in a sewer. They're psycho, totally out of their minds.
Oh, cool, bro. Can I have your room then? I've always wanted a special room just for my video games.
The next day, they asked me to pack a duffel bag and they drove me to the grossest part of town.
Do you have your cell phone? We'll send you messages once in a while to check on you.
I couldn't answer her. I couldn't even speak to them. They showed me how to get to the sewer tunnels and just left me there. I nearly started crying, but I decided to man up and to go see what it was like under there. I walked for a while and the bench was unbearable. Then I reached a place with lights and I could hear different sounds like laughter, talking, and music. I walked closer and saw a group of people.
Hey look, a newbie.
Have you lost your way, young man? What interesting red hair you have.
My name is Bradley and my parents have abandoned me. They dropped me near the entrance and left me to fend for myself. I don't know what to do. That's when I saw Jeff for the first time. He was neatly dressed and looked like he was almost 50 years old.
Well, welcome to the sewer life, little man. My name is Jeff. I'll help you get adjusted to everything here.
Just like that?
Yeah, I think it's really awful what your parents did to you, but hey, that's life. I once had it all, then I lost everything, and I'm happy the kind people who live here took me in. They ain't half bad. You'll be okay.
I wish I could say that I found these words comforting, but I didn't. I was coming from an amazing house in a great neighborhood, and this was the sewer. He took me to a place further down the tunnel. There, he had set up his own corner between several cardboard boxes. He told me I could put my stuff there too, and that he'd find me something to sleep on for the night. We shared a can of beans, then he fell asleep. I couldn't sleep at all though. The environment was just too strange and awful. There were rats squeaking, and I was afraid that cockroaches might walk all over my face. The next morning, I had lots of questions. So what do you do all day?
Well, I walk around town looking for odd jobs. I make enough for food, but not enough for rent, as you can see.
Where do you take a shower?
There's a homeless shelter where we can do that. It's full, though. That's why we can't stay there. And frankly, this sewer is more comfortable.
Where do you wash your clothes?
The laundromat. Life isn't as complicated here as you might think. We all get by, and we get by just fine.
The first few days, Jeff treated me like I was his own son. He showed me the ropes and showed me how I could make a little extra money to buy food, too. So in no time, I settled into sewer life and developed my own little routine. Life was nowhere close to perfect, don't get me wrong. I've seen some awful things in that sewer, but the worst is that it floods when there's rain. And this brings me to that horrible incident I mentioned earlier. One night, while we were sleeping, I woke up and found water everywhere. I woke Jeff up and told him we had to leave, and by the time we reached the entrance, the water was already waist high. It was probably the scariest night of my life trying to get me and Jeff out of there. We spent the rest of the night on a street corner, and when the waters subsided the next day, we went back to check what was left in the sewer. We had lost everything. But everyone was okay, and that's all that mattered. My parents didn't even check on me after that. They seemed not to care at all. I hated them. A few months later, I was sitting on my old mattress reading a comic book. Jeff had gone to find some work, and I was starting to feel a bit bored. I got up and started walking around. Then I found some guy spraying graffiti all over one of the sewer walls. It was super creative and artistic. Wow, you're really talented.
Thanks, new kid. My name is Mike. Want to hang out with me and the guys later?
Okay, sure. Later, I met Mike's friends. There was Jacob, who dressed like a goth with spiky hair. I think he was about 18. Then there was Rob, a short muscular guy who looked like he was about 20. Finally, there was Greg, who was about my age. He looked quite ordinary. We went to hang out in a park. We spoke for a long time, drank some beers, and ate snacks. Then we went back to our different parts of the sewer. The next day, Rob approached me while I was on my way back from the laundromat.
Hey, there's something I want to ask you. Got a sec?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, after meeting you last night, all the guys decided that you're pretty safe.
Safe? For what?
We have an idea. Maybe we should sit down so I can discuss this with you properly.
Okay. We walked to a nearby bench and sat down.
So, I'm sure you don't want to live in the sewer forever. Neither do we.
Yeah?
So, we came up with a sort of plan.
What?
We're going to rob a bank. I'm serious.
But how are you all gonna do that? Do you have any experience?
We're going to try to get that first. So, we're going to start by robbing small stores, then bigger ones. Then, when we finally get the hang of it, we'll try the bank.
I know you're thinking I'm really not that type of guy, but I was also really annoyed, frustrated, and angry. Angry because my parents abandoned me and just overall upset at the world. And when you feel like that, you do things you wouldn't normally do. So I agreed, and before you knew it, I was a valuable member of a gang. Our first few robberies went well. Rob got some weapons for all of us, and to this day, I have no idea how he did that. Every night, we'd rob a different store, and we were never caught. Eventually, we had too much money and it wasn't safe to store it anywhere in the sewer. So we all opened different bank accounts and we split our profits equally. I went from having dimes to thousands. This created a thrill and we just wanted more and more. We continued with smaller stores and decided against the bank because it was a bit too risky. We decided that when we finally had enough money, we'd open a business and try to earn an honest living. We just needed startup capital, if you know what I mean. Before I knew it, 3 years had passed. We had a fortune saved up and we hadn't been caught once. We used some of our money to open a small car repair shop at first. Then as we made more money, we started other businesses. Mike, Jacob, Rob, Greg, and I all had different businesses. Mine was a cafe because I love coffee and food. Our housing situation improved a lot too. We were no longer living in filth. We all moved into a reasonably priced apartment complex. We made sure to help our friends in the sewer too though. I rented a 2-bedroom apartment and one of the rooms was for Jeff. He helped at the cafe and we finally had a comfortable life. You're probably wondering what happened to my parents? Well, I don't know. I completely cut them off. I got a new phone and changed my number shortly after our first successful robbery. I don't care about any of them, not even my twin brother, because he never tried to check on me to see how I was doing. If he'd been in my situation, I would have at least bought him food or something. The truth is that you've been born into one family, but you can choose the one you want for yourself. And I found my real family in the sewer. We supported each other and grew until we were able to leave. We're able to leave. We're able to leave. We're able to leave. We're able